Okay. All right. Anybody want to hazard a guess?
Because Amanda told us all that was the page.
Throw her under the bus.
I did. I'm not either.
Well, I'm saying, your mom just threw you under. Amanda told us.
Wow. All right. All righty. So, due to extensive cheating, you know what? How about we start this way? Anybody remember what the last thing we learned was? How's that? No answers there. No answers. All of a sudden, crickets.
Did you have it last week?
Not only did we...
I think Lee was not.
No, that was 2 weeks
What
ago.
was last week? Was last week at Jody's house?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I was there.
You were there. You came in with the perfect grand entry. I even gave you an introduction.
Yeah.
Yes. All right. Let's continue then. All right. So obviously there is no need for me to recap what we did last time because everyone's clearly right with it.
There's something about Mother Ani or something.
Something about my Dani. Oh, yeah.
Good job, right?
Okay. So
Yeah, there you go.
what we talked about was we got a meme here today.
Oh, here it is, about sleep in the 60th day.
Doesn't matter when we wash. Okay, you can't do that as a meme. Sorry, that's cheating. We want to learn about the rules about washing. Yeah, we're going to learn about the rules. Yes. All right, so. So.
You'll find it when you pay something.
Yeah. All right, so we have the discussion of this chapter being about the morning routine that Hashem has set up for us. So what he started with was that the world is designed to be split into 2 sections, and those are day and night. And the daytime is when the light of Hashem is manifest and the goodness is manifest. And the nighttime, the darkness, is when the evil has its opportunity to manifest. And there has to be that balance. And he mentioned that we have to make sure that we are cognizant of this split and that we do what we can to keep things where they belong and at bay. So there is a natural system in place in which people sleep during the night, and that is by design, again, in order to keep people from interacting too much with the evil that is popular and is populating the world, shall we say, at the time. So that doesn't mean, though, that we're immune to it just because we're sleeping. So what he said was that while we are asleep, we lose some of our protection against the evil because he mentioned, number 1, because it's nighttime, so the evil has its time then, and number 2, because we lose the upper portions of our neshama at that time when we are asleep.
Which one comes first? Is it the evil that people do, or is it the evil that exists?
So this, he said, is the evil that exists that is not because of what people do.
So that causes people to do?
No. It's not that it causes people to do things. It's that evil itself is prevalent at night, and people's actions can cause that to become more pronounced or less pronounced depending on what we do. So, for example, if there's going to be a tornado, so that has its time, so to speak, comes from the nighttime, And if I do something wrong during the day, that can kind of empower that to happen at night.
So we can have an influence on just how strong the evil is during the nighttime. Not
Correct.
just be affected by it, but
Correct.
do we have more
Our actions affect it.
And do we have, and plus we have more of a propensity to do evil in the nighttime because more of it exists?
Are we more inclined to do
And that's
things
why
wrong
we're
at night?
supposed to, like,
He hasn't mentioned
do
that.
everything?
He hasn't mentioned that, but I don't know. He hasn't said that. So if you'll go back, this is back in Aleph, towards the, well, I guess it's like the middle.
If there's an urge to snack, it definitely is there.
Oh, yeah. So if you'll go back to Aleph, you see V'amnam? Not Bays, but the Amnam before Bays, which is in Aleph. Yes. What page is that on?
308 top paragraph.
Top paragraph of 308.
307?
It'll be
Oh, no.
309.
309.
Okay, sorry.
Okay. So we'll just run through this one more time. V'amnam, however, Inyan Shlita Hazais, this jurisdiction, the forces that they have their power at night, that these forces are powered at night, and the fact that they are banished during the day. This is something that has been etched into the natural, so to speak, design of the world. And this is not including, this is the exception of the jurisdiction, the control, and the subjugation of that affects through that are affected by, the actions of men. And this means that Hashem's wisdom decided, since the reality of good and evil, which is what comes from the actions of mankind, the world has to be designed in a way that there's a natural opportunity for bad, for evil to manifest, so that the evil that needs to be perpetuated will be able to spread during that time, referring to nighttime. The same way it works the opposite way during the day, that those powers are mitigated. So, what he's saying here is that, yes, our actions are what cause these things, but they need to have a natural time in which they are manifest in order for that to work. So basically, the things that we do are what powers these good or bad things to occur in their time. Okay? Not clear enough? We can keep reading, because there's more.
Sounds like you're saying that because Tov and Ra is true, aka, in other words, people do good and bad, and there needs to be a time for the good and the bad. So Hashem made it from the beginning at nighttime is going to be the channel for bad.
That's its time.
That's the side of the highway. So, but he doesn't say there if it comes back to, in other words, does it create a pull? Like, does the rock create a pull? Do more rock during that time?
So again, that was Michelle's question, and he doesn't address that. No.
I don't see that.
I'm not. I said he doesn't address it.
Oh, okay.
I'm just addressing the general concept here. We're trying to figure out how man's actions affecting evil and time affecting evil, how those two things work together. So that's what he's addressing here.
Right.
Okay. Got it? All good? Okay. Sort of.
I mean, sorry, one last point. If Ra and Tov is emes, then it shouldn't be telling of any other.
On the contrary. So Rabbi Goldman's asking is that if good and bad are necessary for the balance of the world, how can that be connected to the actions of man? And the answer we've said, Ramchal himself has explained, that the opportunity for evil to manifest is given at a certain time. This is its opportunity. But it's only given the power to do that based on the actions of man. So if everybody was perfect, yes? So everybody was perfect, so then nighttime would come, the opportunity for evil will be there, but it wouldn't happen. Because there'd be nothing powering it. There'd be nothing making it happen.
You say the Metzias of Ra just means the ability for it to
Right.
play out.
That's the time that it gets its time then.
Not that there is Ra
It's not inherent.
being done.
It's an inherent opportunity. So when we talk about the times of Mashiach, we talk about Shabbos, which is, we say that Yom Shekula Yom V'Kula Aruch, it's all day, it's long, there's no night. That doesn't necessarily mean that there won't be a nighttime, it just means there won't be evil. Right. Right.
Right? Okay.
Okay.
Back down.
We are back to Daled. Well, forward to back to Daled. Okay. Okay. So, so now we said that the world exists naturally at a very low baseline, and that very low baseline is one that needs correcting during the day. So the powers of evil are very influential at night, and the state of the world is lowered significantly at night. And we have to do something to get it back up and going in the morning, to get it back to where it needs to be. So that is where we are up to. That Hashem in the Torah designed certain mitzvahs for us that are there to accomplish that goal. They're there to get the world out of its low state. Okay, good?
Your physical proximity doesn't affect where that hashpah is going to go. It can go to China.
Yes, that is correct. Yeah, location doesn't seem to matter here. That is correct.
But isn't it, whatever, you're not gonna bring it down upon yourself?
Not necessarily. No, the things that we do don't necessarily only affect us. They don't necessarily affect us at all. They might be entirely effective on other people. They might be effective at other times. Yeah. Okay. All right. So, are we ready to start? Can't hear you.
Yes.
Yes.
That was for Jody. All right. So, Dalet. Hine. Hapayel Harishan. Chaim. Hapayel Harishan. The first action that we can do to help the world is Hutaras HaYadayim. This is purifying the hands. Because those are the things that became impure. And this evil spirit, we can call it, rested upon the hands during the night. And that is why we need to expel this impurity from the hands and to purify them. So Hashem decided that the way to rid oneself of this impurity is by washing the hands in the appropriate way. As our sages taught us exactly how to wash the hands. And then we will find that the entire body is actually purified, even though we've only washed the hands. The same way the entire body was impure because of this ruach ra, this evil spirit that rested upon the hands, so too, by purifying the hands, one will purify the body. Now, that's not enough. But in included in this is also a rectification for the world. To be purified from the impurity of nighttime that infected the entire world, and to go out of its darkness. So the washing that we do doesn't just purify our hands, it purifies our entire selves, and it helps to purify the whole world from this evil that was manifest during the nighttime. And not only that, but Hashem also connected with this the cleanliness, the cleansing of the inside of the human body. And in doing so and clearing out the inside of the body as well, the person is fully purified. And then they are prepared to come close to Hashem and to begin the davening. Yes?
So that's when you come to wash your hands and go in, or is it?
Okay, so the question is, when do you wash your hands? So, this is referring to the washing hands that we do immediately upon awakening. Or waking, I guess is more accurate. Okay, so the first thing you do when you wake up in the morning, we said it's the same Moda'ani. Be thankful, the fact that you're alive. And the next thing you should do, and the halacha states that you should do this as quickly as possible without delaying at all, if at all possible, immediately, as soon as you can, wash your hands. We want to get this tumah off of us as soon as possible. It's if a person woke up and found their hands full of mud, they would be grossed out and immediately would go wash their hands. They would jump out of bed, right? So certainly,
So I would have a lot of questions.
yeah, yes, as you should. I would hold your roommate's suspect. But if you woke up and found your hands were full of grossness, of course you'd immediately jump out of bed and wash them off. It'd be disgusting. So spiritually, that's what's going on. We have this tumah that's come upon us over the course of the night, and we got to get it off. So halacha is very clear. You should rush to do it as soon as you can, and go wash your hands. The proper way to wash is by using a vessel which is not cracked, and pouring it over each hand 3 times, alternating from hand to hand. Okay? When you do that,
What we do at the cemetery?
it is what we do at the cemetery, correct. The only difference is that at the cemetery, we don't want to show any kind of enthusiasm for it, so we don't fill up the cup for the next person. We don't put the cup down right away. We just kind of leave it upside down to show that we're not doing this enthusiastically, as opposed to the morning, where on the contrary, many people will actually have a little wash basin right next to their beds. You don't even have to get out of bed to do it. It's right next to your bed. You lean over and wash your hands, and this way you get rid of this tumah as quickly as possible. Now understand, this helps not only for us as individuals, but it helps for the whole world. You know, we're living in a world that's full of depravity. We're living in a world that tumah is what the headlines are made of, and this is the draw of our world the society that we live in. And I'm not saying it's really necessarily been different in other times in history. It may have been, I don't know, but it's certainly very prominent today with our access to so much media. And we got to do our part to try to help clean things up, right? So this is something that we can do. We can wash our hands in the morning, right when you wake up, alternating 3 times in each hand, using a proper vessel, and that'll help. That'll accomplish. Now, as far as the bracha is concerned, which is what we were asking before, as far as the bracha is concerned, so if the common custom is not to make the bracha then, the more common custom is to wait until you're going to say all of the morning brachos and say it then as part of the whole set of brachos that we say in the morning. However, if a person wants to, they certainly can say the bracha then.
You did it whiteboard, right? Why don't you whisper to me?
Does it come with smiley faces?
The kids wash in school when they
Do the kids wash in school when they daven? I don't know. Rabbi Goldman, any ideas? No. They're expected to have washed already.
I assume that they wash their hands in the morning.
Okay, they definitely should be washing their hands at home.
This is like something that you should do, like, right, and I tell them this, like, I don't want you coming to school if you shouldn't be touching anything.
Right.
So, yeah.
So, like, I mean, again, we're not going to go into all the halachas here. This is not a halacha class. But before you wash your hands, you really are not allowed to touch any orifices in the body. You can't rub your eyes, right? You can't touch food, right? You got something stuck in your mouth. You can't. You can't touch anything. Food that gets touched by somebody might not be able to be eaten. It's complicated stuff. So absolutely, wash your hands first thing in the morning. And not only that, the Brisker Rav famously said that it is important to even wash the hands of babies, even newborns. So wash their hands. He said they're affected by this just as much as everybody else, and there's nothing they can do about it. What? What age? Newborns. The age is newborn. Well, from birth, because at that point they're subject to tumah, and their hands should be washed. So yeah, we should wash their hands in the morning. So I'm not saying it's halachically a requirement, but it's certainly a good thing to do. You should always wash your hands, and those who are unable should have the wash for them. So you never know. Kinda iffy. Okay.
We're talking about the potential.
Yeah, with some good training, a little practice. Okay, so I'm sorry, Mom's calling.
Ignore it.
I'll tell her you said so. Okay. Okay, so
You can talk to her if you wanted to.
she's more than welcome to join the class. I'm happy to have her. It's already on the phone,
Seems to be relaxing for me, but that's
Okay, so so now he also mentioned here the idea that we need to clean ourselves out internally as well by going to the bathroom, and this also affects the purity. So as Rav Chaim Friedlander says, that it's not just the physical uncleanliness that we're dealing with here, but this is actually representative of the spiritual uncleanliness. And therefore, it's important to go to the bathroom in the morning, which is why when you see your morning brachos, you have Netilas Yadayim followed by Asher Yatzar. Asher Yatzar is the bracha that we say after relieving ourselves, and that is part of this process, as Ramchal is saying, is that we need to rid ourselves of the impurity, and that is not only the invisible stuff that's on our hands, but it's also the internal stuff that we get rid of in the morning. Okay. All right, so now this is all what's necessary, as he says, as a preparation to stand before Hashem. So again, this is the kind of thing that we think of in terms of davening, that we're standing before Hashem, but the reality is that this is every moment of our lives. We're always standing before Hashem. So we should always do our best to remain pure, and if our hands should ever become impure, then we should wash them as well. And we should try to keep these standards up as much as we can throughout our day, because we should realize we're standing before Hashem, and we certainly wouldn't go before Hashem with dirty hands. So we shouldn't think any less of the tumah that is present in our world. Okay, we good? All right. Now, just as an aside, slightly related though, the Rambam writes that the requirement to wash your hands exists before every davening. Before Shacharitz, before Mincha, before Ma'ariv, and there's even a whole discussion if you have to wash before Musaf, because it's a davening. The Rambam says that before every davening. So now, I don't think most people are particular about this, but many are. If you have the opportunity, you're coming to shul. Most shuls will actually have the washing station between the entrance to the building and the entrance to the room that you're davening in. So that way, as people walk in, they can just wash their hands and continue in. Here we don't. You have to, go out of the way. But it's a good thing to do if possible, to always just wash your hands in preparation for davening, for this idea to rid ourselves of any tumah that might be present. Could you use the water fountain? Ideally, you should use a vessel, because you do have to wash all of your hand up until your wrist. And that's very difficult to do with the water fountain. And many say that it has to be your own action. So there's a very vague discussion about what happens when you turn on a faucet. Is the whole thing considered your action as long as it's running, or is it just that first moment, that first spurt that comes up? Anything after that is just automatic. So if you say it's just that first second that comes out, so then you can't wash your whole hand with that first drop that comes out. It's not going to work.
What about those, like, the ones where it has, like, the water bottle that they can just fill with us?
Again, it's the same as pressing. You open a faucet.
You mean 'cause it has
Right.
a sensor that you keep?
Yeah, that sensor.
No, the same thing. It doesn't matter. It's no different than a handle that you're turning on a faucet, right? It's still, the question is that whole time that it's going, is that considered your action? Or is it just that first moment that you do it? Or every time you reset the sensor? Every time you re-trigger it? I don't know how long they last, but, theoretically, and many hold this way practically, that it doesn't count. Because that's not your doing. It's just an automatic process that you put into motion, but you're not actually doing it. So and you're also missing the whole idea of having a vessel. And there is reason to have a vessel. So certainly better to wash with a cup in a sink. All right? Got it?
So why is there a bracha only in the morning?
Why is there bracha only in the morning? So that's because we don't paskin like the Rambam. The reason we only have a bracha in the morning is because we paskin like the others who say that the requirement is only before davening shachris, not before other tefillos. So ideally, you should wash every time, but we don't make a bracha because others hold that it's not a requirement and therefore wouldn't warrant a bracha. Okay? All right. Moving on. Hey, v'ulam. Achar zeh yevayu shnei ma'asim. After this will come two more actions. Asher kvarhim ba'atzmam miklal hatar yag mitzvos. That these two, as opposed to the first, are counted amongst the 613 mitzvos. Umeschabrim im tikunei atfila, and they are connected to davening. Lahashlama sa'avoda hayemis, in order to complete the service that we have during the day, a daily service. V'heim atzitzis v'atfilin, and these are tzitzis and tefillin. Nevar b'tchila inyonei haprati. First, I'll go through their details. And then I'll explain how they fit into and affect our daily service to Hashem. Okay, so the next mitzvahs that we have are talis and tefillin. So putting on, some of us have the next mitzvahs of putting on talis and tefillin. Now, understand.
When we say these two observances are part of the Torah mitzvahs, that means that it's...
Because in Tilas Yadayim it's not. That's all.
Which two observances are referring to this?
Tzitzis and tefillin. So we'll see, based on his flow here that he's been going through, that the ideas of tzitzis and tefillin are specifically after the nighttime. We don't wear tzitzis at night. We don't wear tefillin at night. The idea is because, again, this is part of this ridding the world of the impurity of the night. So that's why it's specifically done during the day, which is also why women are not required to wear them. At least according to some. This is the reason why. Others give other reasons, but this is certainly a simple reason as to why they are not performed by women, because women are not required to do any mitzvahs that are limited to specific times, and therefore tzitzis and tefillin would be in that category that they are not required. Now, why they shouldn't is another discussion, but that's just why they're not required. Okay. So, okay, so let's go. Yes? Vav. So, inyan tzitzis, the concept of tzitzis is as follows. Ki hine ratza ha'adam baruch hu sheyu Yisrael mesukanim b'chol b'chinesehem b'inyanei kedusha. Hashem wants that Klal Yisrael, in all of our different facets, to be involved in kedusha, in holiness. Okay? Kedusha is the way of life that Hashem has chosen for us, and kedusha means many, many, many different things. It means avoiding certain things. It means doing certain things. But all of it is the concept of connecting to holiness and living a holy way of life. And this is how Hashem has designed the world to function, that it responds to the holiness of the Jewish people. So we have to do our part to live in this realm of holiness in order to keep the world where it needs to be. And therefore Hashem gave us mitzvos for all times, and for all situations, in order that they should all be rectified. Part of the necessities that man lives with, are the clothing that a person wears. In order that they too should be infused with holiness, Hashem commanded us to place tzitzis upon these articles of clothing, and that way the clothing will be rectified with holiness. So what's the idea here? The idea is that part of the reality of the life of mankind is to wear clothing, at least since the sin of Adam and Chava was that we wear clothing. So Hashem said it's important to infuse holiness into that too. Holiness needs to be infused into all of our lives. And therefore Hashem gave us the mitzvah of tzitzis, which infuses the holiness into the concept of clothing. Now, for the women in the room, want to know, what do you mean? What about us? What are we? Right? Well, that's what tznius is about. Tznius is also about dressing modestly in a way that will infuse holiness into your clothing. It's the same concept. Now, it doesn't have a bracha because it's not a specific action like tzitzis is, but it's absolutely a mitzvah. And mind you, this applies to men as well. It's not only for women. The Torah doesn't say that only women have to be tznius. Men certainly have to be tznius as well. But the measures are more exacting for women than they are for men, and that's the way they are able to infuse this kedusha, this holiness, into their clothing, and through that into the entire world. Now, he doesn't say that, at least not here. Maybe he talks about it somewhere else. But I'm just putting that in for your entertainment purposes. Okay. And education, yeah. And edification. And political correctness.
And just sheer safety, because Jody's here.
But Jody can't talk. It's fine. I'm not worried. Jody, do you have something to share? Why don't you text me? Or just leave me a voice note. All right. Okay. Well, I guess Jody's got nothing to say, so let's continue.
Yeah, she's gonna get even, right?
No, not without a voice.
I grew up with brothers and most of my cousins were boys. I learned real quickly how to get even.
Yeah. All right, here we go. All right, let's have a class read along here. Can someone read it to me? I can't open it when my phone's recording. I'm sorry, what garment?
Are considered four quarters other than a shirt.
Okay, that's a good question. And again, this is not a halacha class, so we're not going to really get into it. But basically, it's something that is. Oh. Why not just say tzitzis on every shirt? Okay, so the reasons behind the details of the mitzvah, Ramchal does not get into over here. Now, in some of his other svarim, what's it called? Eitzar Kavanos, I think it's called. Ramchal does get into the reasons behind why the Torah specifies certain mitzvahs need to be done in certain ways. Like, for example, he'll talk about why you need to wash 3 times alternating on your hands in order to rid your hands of their impurity. He gets into the Kabbalistic reasons behind it. And I would assume he would also get into why specifically four-cornered garments need to have tzitzis, and why the tzitzis are shaped the way they are and tied the way they are and are made of the material that they're made out of, and all that other stuff. That's beyond the scope of what he writes about in Derech Hashem. So we're not going to get into that. I don't know that, and I have no intentions of getting there anytime soon. But one thing should be very... Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I'll start then, okay? So one thing is very clear. What'd you say?
I think you start learning
Aleph Beis. That's what we start, yeah.
Aleph Beis, by the way, should take years to learn properly.
Yeah. I even got a sefer of the Aleph Beis Rabbi Akiva. That's pretty interesting. Anyway, so when it comes to the specifics of the mitzvos, that's not within the scope of this work, and that's not what we're discussing. But what we do know for certain is that Hashem, who gave us these mitzvos, gave them to us with these specifics, and said, do it this way, because he understands why they work, and we don't understand why they work. So to start doing it your own way is really counterproductive, right? So we're just going to stick to it, whether we understand it or not. Okay, but yes, it is limited to four-cornered garments. If they are made of synthetic material, it is questionable whether or not they are included in the mitzvah of tzitzis. And if they are made not to wrap the body, but just a body part, then those are not included, like a scarf would not be included because it's not made to cover the body. It also has to have a minimum size, at least for an adult, there has to be a minimum size. Anything too small will not be included. And it has to have four clear corners. If a corner is rounded, that doesn't count. It's got to be a right angle. And additionally, the split has to go more than halfway up the garment. So if it's connected on the top half and then split on the bottom half, that's no good. It's got to be split more than halfway up the side of the garment in order to be considered four-cornered. Okay? Any other specifics? 5 knots, 4 strings, folded in half. We don't really do tchelas anymore, but the string should be made of wool or cotton.
7, 8, 11, 13, right?
Either 7, 8, 11, 13, or 7, 9, 11, 13, depending on your custom, as far as the number of wines that go around. Anything else? Women are allowed to make them. Can make them at night. Do it for the purpose of tzitzis. If they rip, show it to the rabbi. Anything else? All right, moving on. Wash them, yes. Okay.
If you have boys, they will.
Yeah. Well, if you have girls, then they shouldn't be wearing tzitzis. All right.
That is true, that was a senior moment.
All right. Okay, so this is the concept. He said this is the surface level concept of tzitzis. Now, all right, let's do a drop more here. However, there's something deeper included in this mitzvah as well. And this is that a person should be should be, what word do they use here? Carry the insignia. I don't think there's a single English word for the word nisman, which means like to signify, but in an active tense, like what you are, a being, a state of being, signifying. Anyway, as a servant to Hashem, it's like wearing a uniform essentially. That you're wearing something that shows publicly, I am a servant of Hashem. And this is part of accepting the yoke of heaven upon yourself and being subservient to him. So, a second concept, which is a deeper idea behind this idea of just not just infusing your clothing with holiness, but there's also the idea of showing that I am a servant of Hashem. This is my uniform. This is what Hashem said I do, so this is what I'm doing. And this is a way of symbolizing to yourself and to those around you that I am an unabashed servant of Hashem, and I'm proud of it. And this is what I do. Hashem tells me to wear tzitzis. I'm going to wear tzitzis, and everyone's going to be able to see it. I'm going to wear a yarmulke today. That's the custom. We wear a yarmulke, and everyone's going to see it. I'm going to dress tznius, even though no one else is dressing tznius. Right? I am a servant of Hashem. I'm not a servant to society. I'm not a servant to those around me and to the stares and jeers. I am a servant of Hashem, and that to me is the number one. And you could go over to the guards at Buckingham Palace and you could say, "Why are you wearing a big 20-pound fur hat when it's 104 degrees outside?"
They will stare the same way.
And they will have no reaction. And in their minds, they'll be thinking, "Are you out of your mind? This is my pride and joy. This is what I'm proud of. This is who I am. I am proud to be able to stand here and wear this uniform, even though it's a uniform that doesn't make any sense." Right? There's no intrinsic value to the uniform, but this is the uniform because this is what we wear at the palace. And that's our way of showing respect. So I remember, I forgot who it was. I remember it was Rabbi Reisman, I think, who noted that they were having some sort of ceremony for fallen soldiers or something. And they were having it somewhere in America, but there was a British soldier who had been killed in battle, and they were having the ceremony for him. And he noted, whoever the journalist was, that it was extremely hot out, and it was somewhere in Pennsylvania, I think, and it was well over 100 degrees. And he said there was one person in the crowd who was fully covered, wearing a hat, wearing a collar, wearing gloves, fully covered, head to toe. The Queen of England. That's it. That's the message. That's all there is to it. You represent something, and it's uncomfortable. You represent something. Have respect. So that's the idea here. He's saying that we have tzitzis. Does it look nice? No, but that's not important. Is it comfortable? No, but that's not important. We're doing this as a symbol that we are servants of Hashem. That is the number one priority. And again, I think the exact same thing applies to tznius. That it's uncomfortable to be tznius sometimes, sure, but it's what we got to do. That's how we live. We are servants of Hashem, and that is first and foremost. And with that, we can help cleanse the world of its impurity. Thank you for coming, and we'll see you, but not next week. Next week, I don't think we'll be having our class. We're having the grand opening for the mikvah, and I'm pretty sure I'm going to be kind of busy. So, So I don't think we'll be having class next week. If I'm able to work it out and everything's really done, I will put it out in the chat. But for now, let's assume we will not be having class next week. But please come to the event. Thank you.
Yes.